Morning all, Les here. I've been putting together some new features for Volatility Master. Nothing unusual there, I suppose, but this one's a fairly big one that most people are going to want to get the newer version to get access to because it does make a decent improvement. But I thought I'd just add a little bit extra as well as that new feature just to refresh a few people's memories on everything. Because I know there are quite a few videos in the playlist now, so not everyone gets through them, although I do urge you to do so. And also to jump on our Sunday night Zooms so that, you can ask any questions and get to understand the software better and see how other people are going with the software and everything. It's, trading's not the easiest way to make money online, but it's very satisfying and it's a life skill. Once you get it working for you, it's something you can do, I don't know about forever, but for a long time anyway. But okay, we have a chart here. I've just got it on Bitcoin at the moment simply because it's Sunday and Bitcoin's the only market that's open. So that's why I'm using Bitcoin. I do trade Bitcoin a little bit. So if you want a bit of a template on what I use for Bitcoin, I can send that to you. The only problem with trading Bitcoin is if you've got a low leverage account, so if you're trading a 30 to 1 account, Bitcoin, if you take out a 1% risk trade on Bitcoin, you're basically going to be using up all of your margin. So you won't be able to open up any other trades as well. So it really needs to have higher leverage for it to all work. Otherwise, you get short on that margin. But anyway, we'll normally you would just come down to template and select the template that if you've got a blank chart, you would select the template that you want to put it on. I don't have one for Bitcoin on this particular trading platform. And then it would set the colors to what you're looking at now. It would load the software and all the specific settings for that software all onto the screen at once for you. But if you don't have that, the only other option is to drag that software onto the screen like this. And then you've got the settings. Now, when you drag it on like that, these settings here are what we call the default settings. So if you don't change the settings or add a template, these are the settings you would get. And these settings are designed to suit the US 30 trading indices. So I'm not going to bother changing the settings at the moment. And I'll click OK. And that'll put the software on and all the information. If you were to load a template, these are all different EAs that I've made, bits and pieces of code. Way too many. I need to clear out the shit. Excuse my French. But yeah, if you had have loaded a template, you would have also got a moving average, that yellow line added as well. And the software only uses the moving average to help determine the trend. Okay, it doesn't use it for any other calculations. A lot of people have strategies where if the market breaks below the moving average, it does sells, and above it does buys. And while that does look good, especially in hindsight, I have tested that, and that alone on its own is not a profitable EA long term, I'm afraid. They can be very helpful in other determinations, but not as often on its own, you know what I mean? Alrighty, so what you will notice is that the trends, where it's showing you the 4 different time frame trends up here, they now have a number in brackets. And this number is quite large on Bitcoin because this is actually points over a 10 candle period. Not that that really matters for you guys. But what we're doing here is this is showing the higher this number is, the stronger the trend is. So if we have a look on the 5-minute chart, which is what we're on, it's 1789. And so what that it's showing us how steep this moving average line is. So how steep the current trend is. I haven't really played around with this on Bitcoin yet, but so 1789 is how steep that line just there is. And if we have a look at the 15-minute trend, it's just got 624 in there. So what that should mean is if we change to the 15-minute time frame, we'll see that the end of that moving average line is much flatter, not as steep. So I'll just do that. And as you can see, it's not as steep. Now, in the settings, the reason for that is in the settings. Do let me find the setting. Now, there are a lot of settings. So admittedly, a lot of settings with Volatility Master. Most of those you'll never ever have to touch. Most of those are set in a template and there'll never ever be any changes needed. But the reason there are so many settings is because they are required to tailor the software to different trading instruments, different pairs. What am I looking for? Right down the bottom here. So right down the bottom here, we've got a new setting, which is minimum trend strength. All right, so see how we've got buy, sell, sell, buy. Okay, so normal there. But if we make the minimum trend strength 700 or something, 750, which is probably what I would have on Bitcoin, not that I've really been using this version on Bitcoin yet. Once we open that up, now it's telling us that the trend on the 15-minute is nil. So there is no trend on the 15-minute. So we've got a buy on the 5, sell on the 1 hour, and a buy on the 4 hour, but no real trend on the 15-minute, which is what we were looking at before, or what we're looking at now. Is you can see the market is very flat. Okay. And this is where an issue, this is where quite a few of the losses were coming from, was that when the market's just ranging like this, it can just crack above, like for example here, it just cracks above the red line, so it would do a buy order, but then it wanders down and it would have hit a stop loss here. Likewise, it might have done a buy there and then meandered down. So by having that now showing as a nil trend, it's not going to take out any trades, because if you're only trading with the 15-minute time frame, the 15-minute trend, then if it's a buy, the software is only looking for buy orders. If the 15-minute trend is a sell, it's only looking for sell orders. If it says nil, then it's not going to take out any trades at all. So it's going to wait to see some sort of more positive direction in the trend before trading. So that's what the new setting does. It's as simple as that. And the figure that will be in that setting will be dependent on the pair you're trading. Okay, I trade Aussie yen a lot, and I just use 6 as the minimum trend strength, simply because that market doesn't move as many pips or as many points as something like Bitcoin. When I'm trading gold, it's 20 pips, and not that I've really tested it out, but we were just using 750 as the minimum trend strength for Bitcoin. The figure I'm using, as always, is just based off, at multiple months, sort of 6 months worth of back testing and what averaged out as being the best result. But to have a look at it, if you can see that the moving average line is flat like that, and see what trend strength that works out at, then you want it to be higher than that, because that's obviously not much of a trend at all. There is another setting which I haven't really explained too much, which is in the previous version. You have that. We've talked about this a fair bit on our Zooms, but it's only in one of the videos. It is having a little moment with my brain here. The close break even feature. I mean, there is another video on this one, but I want to touch on it again. At zero, it means we're not using it. But like on the $1,000 copy trading account I've got, I just have that set at 1. And that means that if the account is down for the day, it's going to go so if you've had a losing trade and your current balance is lower than the starting balance of the day, then if the balance ever gets back above the starting balance plus $1, it's going to close all those trades and you will have broken even for the day. I am going to extend these settings in the next version, and there will be a time. So you can set a time, and it has to be later than that time before the break even feature will kick in. That way, you could have a losing trade early in the day, but it won't go into break even mode. It'll just keep trading as normal. But maybe once it gets into the night time, I'm just making these times up. But then if after that set time, you're behind for the day, then it'll go into break even mode, and it's getting late in the day, and you'd be happy just to break even. If you're trading, like a $10,000 account, you might want to make that 10, or if you're on a $100,000 account, you might want to make it 100. It's not vital that it's exactly like that. You could use 2 on a $1,000 account. You could use 2 on a $2,000, $3,000 or $4,000 account. But once you go up to 5, you might want to go a bit higher. So it's not a setting that you need to change weekly or even monthly as your account balance grows. But if you start with a $50,000 account, you might just want to put it in as 10. You might not even want to use the break even mode. It's up to you. Or you might leave it as 0 so you're not using it. And then you might decide at some stage, okay, I'm behind. I'm more than happy just to break even. So I'll put in a figure there. And once I hit that, it'll close out. The job will be done for the day. It doesn't have to be just break even though. So you might, so this is a $14,000 account, and we're aiming to make 3.5% profit for the day, just on those settings, which would be $490 we're aiming to make. We might, for whatever reason, we might not be feeling too greedy this day, or we might be behind a little bit, or we might look at the market structure and decide that it's not going to go, it's not likely we're going to be able to get to 3.5. You could just jump in here and you could just click that at 100. And so instead of closing out when it hits 3.5%, which would be 490, it'll just close out when it hits 100. And 100, it's 0.75% profit or something, and still not a bad day's trading. So that's what close break even does, how it works, and a couple of ways that you might want to use it. All right, so that's about it for the moment, guys. Pretty much what I wanted to go through. This is interesting. Actually, this is just a demo account with Pepperstone, but I've had this account forever. I've had this since back in 2022, and I only use it for testing out new features and seeing if things are working and having a little bit of a play in regards to my coding. Because I opened this account right back when I first started coding, or maybe even a little bit before. And yeah, so it's never been an account that I actually trade or, leave set and run or, test anything out long term on. It's just been something for, making videos on like this, or I might want to, I might just want to place a trade so I can see what the software does with it, or I can change some settings and let it take out a trade just to test if new features are working. And sometimes I close the trade straight away. Sometimes I might let the software trade for a few hours or a day here and there, just to see, as I said, just to see how I can improve features and things. But I mean, it's not a huge result, but because it's been running for about 3 years now, this account, but it was only a $10,000 account to start with, so it's basically made 40% in that time. Not that that's neither here nor there really, because it's not because the software did it. It's not because I'm a great manual trader. It was just sort of worked out that little bits of playing around over the course of a few years turned out in ahead. So yeah, it's not important. I just find it interesting that it's still going quite good as an account. All right, guys, I'll leave it to you. Talk to you all soon. Bye.